Hey everybody, welcome to another video. Today we're going to be working on this PlayStation 4 Pro. This has been sent in by a customer because he's attempted to repair the HDMI encoder and unfortunately it didn't go as planned. So the customer said on the note, I have attempted to replace the encoder but can't seem to get it right. I'm not a novice at soldering and haven't mutilated it, just think that new eyes and more practice is required. The machine has been roughly buttoned up with only a few screws, the rest are in plastic bags. Everything inside is unplugged. So the plastic bags are these ones here. This was inside the box, which is absolutely fine. It saved me a little bit of time, a couple of minutes. So it's absolutely fine. At least it's been sent here, inside the housing, and it's going to be nice and safe. It also says here that if repaired, please do not update the firmware. So obviously I am not going to be updating this. It's obviously on a exploitable firmware, so that's absolutely fine as well. That just means I can't test the internet connectivity and anything related to that. But with that being said, my name is Hakko. I'm an electronics technician. I mainly work on games consoles, but I do work on other stuff as well. So if that's the sort of stuff, every time I need to change this intro. If that's the sort of stuff you're into, be sure to get subscribed and turn on the bell notifications, and that way you don't miss any future videos. If you do want to organise a repair, you can get in touch with me at my website www.thecoder.repair. The links will all be in the video description, and if you do want to see these videos early, I do give supporters of the channel early access to the videos, so you can check me out on Patreon. You can support me over there. You can become a Twitch Prime subscriber by linking an Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account and then subscribing to my channel completely free. It doesn't cost you anything if you've already got Amazon Prime, but you can also become a channel member as well. So with that being said, let's get into today's video. I swear I'm going to change that intro one day and not mess it up. This video probably still would have been here without today's sponsor, but hey, it's time to show something, right? So here goes. Here at the Coder Productions, we love nothing more than to take as much money from you, the viewer, as we possibly can. Which is why we're proud to talk to you about consolefix.shop. A great place for you to spend your hard-earned cash. I mean, yeah, fair enough. You get parts and supplies that help you fix things, but you've got to give me some money in return. Nothing in life's free, and if you pay me for it, you might appreciate it more. Or not. Hey, I'm not judging. With that being said, we do have some pretty cool stuff on the shelves, including power supplies, HDMI ports, charging chips, MOSFETs, and whatever else you can think of that'll give you the illusion that you're getting a good deal. So head on over to the online store by clicking on the link in the video description, and if there's one thing I can guarantee, is that there will be a way for me to take your money. Console Fix, your friendly money grabbing YouTuber. Oh, okay. So I'm not going to bother turning this on. It says on the paperwork that everything's been unplugged, so it's kind of pointless trying to turn this on until I've at least took the case off it. So what I'm going to do, I do like to cover my own back on these and make sure it turns on before I work on it or anything like that. So what I'm going to do is just take the cases off it. I'm going to plug all of the ribbons back in and just see if it powers up. In fact, no, I'm not. You know what? I'm not going to do that. I mean, I'm covering myself on video anyway. And one of the things that I don't want to do is cause any further damage. So, no, I'm not going to turn it on. I'm just going to strip it down, I think. And, yeah, I'll just take it from there. Just see what the deal is with it. I don't like doing that, but hey-ho, such is life. Yeah, so every ribbon's unplugged anyway. That's fine. So I'll just go ahead and take these remaining screws out just to get inside the console then. Okay, there we are. Probably the fastest I've ever torn down a PS4 Pro. Now we can check out the board. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pop this under the microscope. I can already see that this is definitely not installed correctly. So yeah, that's absolutely fine, but it is very, very visible here. I mean, you can probably see from there actually. So yeah, it's not been butchered, but obviously the customer is struggling with it. And this is something I actually wanted to talk about, to be honest. So let's go to serious cam for a second. No, it's not really serious cam. So one of the things that I keep trying to tell people is that anyone can do this, right? Anyone can do micro soldering. It's a skill that you can learn. It's not something that you're born with. It's not something that you're going to be naturally good at. It's a skill that you can learn, and that comes with practice. This customer has obviously realised that he's probably bitten off more than he can chew. and he's given up and sent it to someone who is capable of doing it, and that is absolutely fine. It's his device, okay? So I don't want to really, you know, slate him or anything like that, but the problem that we've got is that people like me, and I do take responsibility for stuff like this, but people like me would make it look a lot easier than it actually is. Number one, because we've experienced, you know, I've worked on thousands upon thousands of devices, and number two is because you've got to remember as well that these videos, although they, you know, sometimes seem seamless and stuff like that, they are edited at the end of the day, and if we make a mistake, we can always cut that out. I don't personally, I always leave my mistakes in, but with edited videos, that can be cut out. You know, the mistake can be hidden, and not everyone sees everything what goes on behind the scenes, right? So the problem that we've got is that people think that it looks easy, they get a little bit too much confidence, and they try and tackle a larger job such as micro soldering on a you know, QFN chip, when in reality, you know, they haven't got the experience to do it. You know, it's one of those things. It's just you know, this customer, at least, I've realised that it's you know, kind of above their pay grade, and they've just given up and sent it to me, which is great because that means I get paid. Yay! But anyway, no, seriously, it does look a lot easier than it is, but with practice, anyone can do it. I promise you that. Just practice. Just get something like this, dead motherboards, and just practice on dead motherboards, because they're cheap and it doesn't matter if you damage them, right? And there's loads of things that you can use for practice. So for example, on a PlayStation 5 board, you could pull the RAM off, you could try reboarding it, you know, you could take off the HDMI encoder, you could replace that. There's you know, some capacitors and stuff that you could try replacing. Just buy a donor board. You know, you don't even need many, just buy, you know, 1 or 2 donor boards, and you can practice the different things on it. And ultimately, that's just what it comes down to. So yeah, anyway, enough waffling, let's get this fixed. So as we'll see here, yes, it is very visibly not soldered properly. The one thing that is slightly concerning, I don't know if it's going to be an issue, but we do have some scratching to the data lines here. You can't really see that very well. Let's get that on an angle. There we go. But I don't think it's actually damaged the traces themselves, so I think it should be fine. One thing I will say with these as well is this is not an easy chip to solder. The HDMI encoder on the PS4 Pro is notoriously difficult, and a lot of people struggle with it. So to that customer, or if you're in this same situation, don't feel bad. It's not the easiest chip to solder. The, you know, the surface area, the size of the pad, the pitch of the pads, stuff like that, you know, it's not for the faint-hearted, right? It's not exactly like it's a chip with 10 pins on it. This is a chip with, what, 80 pins or 64 pins, something like that, I don't know. Maybe more, 128? Might be 128 pins. I can honestly say I haven't counted. But that coupled with the incorrect tools, for example, and you've got yourself a problem. So if you've got a low quality soldering iron and stuff like that, you know, you're going to struggle. So I'm just going to lift that chip off. And one thing I have noticed, and this is important, one thing I have noticed is on one of these EMI filters here, it looks like we've got a bridge on the first EMI filter. So these are the data lines. And yeah, there is 100% a bridge on there, so this would not have worked. If I'd have put that chip back on without seeing that, it would not have worked, and I would have obviously had to come back inside and do it again, or, you know, look over the work and try and figure out why. So what I'll do is just tin this, just get rid of those bridges. There we are. So that's nice and clean now. There's no bridges in between that data line. So what that would do is it would filter out the, you know, positive and negative data line for that particular line, and that would cause crosstalk, and obviously that's not good. So yeah, always make sure that you got no bridges, especially on those HDMI filters. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to tin all of these pads with some leaded solder, and you'll see here we've got a little bit of oxidation. I'll just scrape it with the edge of the iron there. And one of the issues you might notice is that we've got a little bit of overflow on some of these pads because the solder mask has been exposed. So I'm going to fix all of that before I go ahead and try and solder this chip. Otherwise it's just not going to sit down flat. And I've had to turn my iron down because for some reason lately I seem to be getting a lot of really oxidized tips. So I'm going to use some hot air to help me with this ground plane. Okay, there we are. So a bit of hot air just to help with that ground plane. And I did tin these bottom ones off camera, but unfortunately I'm a terrible YouTuber and you didn't see it. So, sorry, my bad. Okay, let's add some more flux. And I'm going to wick all of these pads away, clean up all this solder. Let's basically start with a brand new canvas. And you can see there that these pads are exposed and they're going to cause solder to overflow onto the rest of the trace. Not a bad thing, it's not going to cause any bridging, but it might mean that the chip won't sit down flat. So we want to just make sure that we clean all of that up. If it was on the outside I wouldn't care, but they're on the inside, so I want to clean it all up and make sure it's all going to be ready for a new chip. You can see the kind of mess this is actually in. I've just lost the cap there, that's fine, I can fix that. I'm just going to grab this cap back. Pop that there. When I add some flux later on, that will flow into place nicely. Let's just clean up this area. So a bit of isopropyl alcohol. This is 99.9% IPA. So I'm just cleaning this up with some IPA. Just make sure that we get a nice clean surface to work with. Because what I'm going to be doing in a minute is I'm going to be adding some solder mask slash conformal coating slash whatever you want to call it, and basically I can't have a contaminated area because the solder mask just won't stick, right? So I want to make sure I clean it all up fully, get rid of any flux, any residue, anything that's going to contaminate the conformal coating and cause an issue. There we are. So that's nice and clean in the area we're working with. And now I'm just going to grab my solder mask. This is Mechanic UV-H900. I'm just going to pop a bit just there. Doesn't really matter. Whoops. Doesn't really matter how much I put there, because I'm going to be cleaning the remaining solder mask up before I cure it. So this is UV curable, which means that we can use a UV light to harden it. I'm going to make sure there's none on these pads here, and then I'm just going to use my tweezers and I'm going to add solder mask anywhere which is exposed, which I don't want to be exposed, which is going to be basically pads like these here up in this top corner, and it doesn't have to be thick, it just has to be enough to stop the solder from flowing down. This isn't an absolute must, it's just something that I want to do to make sure we don't get any overflow. So it might take a little while, but at least it means that the job is done correctly. I don't really care about the outside, it's the inside I care about, because I don't want it to end up floating away everywhere. And this is one of the issues the customer's going to have been having, because they've scraped a little bit too much and it's scraped the coating off, which means there's solder where there shouldn't be solder, and because of that it's causing the chip to float around, and he's probably struggling to actually get the chip to sit still, right? I have a few tricks that I can use for that, but you know, that's just techniques I've developed over time. Okay, I don't want this much solder on this ground pad either. Don't want all of this exposed. Again, it doesn't need to be thick. Just need to cover it. Okay, while I'm there, I might as well just do the outside as well, just because I'm here anyway. And I think we're good enough. I think that's close enough there. So I'm going to grab my UV light now, and I'm just going to run that for a couple of minutes just to cure this. I'm just going to basically place it over the top of it. But before I do that, I just want to clean up this excess solder mask here. Again, that's not overly important, it's just better to do so just to keep it nice and clean. So I'll just cure this with UV light, and I'll leave that running for 2 minutes or so just to make sure it fully hardens. And all I'm going to do is just drop it just over there like that, just so as it's sitting just above where I'm working with the solder mask. There we go. So a couple of minutes, just let that run. Just like it's getting a suntan. Okay, so just like that, we have a nice, clean-ish looking HDMI encoder, or a HDMI encoder circuit, should I say. So what I can do now is, if you look at that now, that's hardened, it's dried. So what I can do now is I can tin these pads again, and it shouldn't overflow onto the rest of the board. We should get a nice even layer of solder without any overflowing. So this is, you know, like I said, it's not necessary, but it just makes for a much cleaner job. It just makes for a better final result, and it makes it easier as well. Okay, there we go. So these pads are not the greatest, to be honest. They do seem to be struggling a little bit. But that being said, they are tinning, and we're not getting any solder overflowing like we was before. We do just want a little bit of solder there, not too much. A little bit of solder in the middle, just as a blob, and that will flow evenly. And what we're going to do now is just tin the chip itself, just so as it actually accepts solder and flows properly. And just as whoops, I just caught the USB ports with my jacket. If we just add some flux here, we can just re-tin the chip itself. I don't know the status of this chip, unfortunately. I don't know if it works or not. Customer has supplied another chip, so I'm assuming this is brand new, but whether it's real is a different question. There is a few issues with fake chips, especially on these particular ones. If you do want a genuine one, by the way, I do sell them online store. There we go, that looks beautiful. Ready to go onto the board. Okie dokie. I'm just going to get that roughly lined up here. It doesn't have to be perfect because surface tension should take it in. Okay, I've got my hot air at 440 degrees Celsius, 40% airflow, by the way. Surface tension has not been my friend today, so I'll just try and line it up properly. There we go. And surface tension's just kicked in. So if I press down on the chip now, squeeze out all of that excess solder. I'm going to get rid of that excess solder and then I'll line it up fully manually. So just catch all that on the iron. Get that in line, press it down. And then once it's solidified, I can start to tin the edges. So I'll just run the iron across, making sure I've got no bridges. Okay, one thing you can do just to assist you with this bit is just add a little bit of hot air here. And look at how much nicer those pads are ending up. And I've just done the bottom, but again, I'm a terrible YouTuber, so you didn't see it. And there we go. That should be done. Again, I did the top, but you couldn't see it because I'm a terrible YouTuber. It was a little bit too zoomed in. Sorry about that. Just going to clean up. A bit of IPA. There we are. Okay, so the conformal coating's come off the top bits, but I'm not worried. Not about that. All I'm bothered about is getting a nice finish. And one important thing here is going to be to clean out the HDMI port itself. So can you see inside there, we've definitely got signs of flux. So I'm going to get some IPA on my toothbrush. And I'm just going to clean out inside the port. So just scrub the inside of the port. And then also clean around the sides. Just to make sure that we're good. Clean the back as well, why not? And good. Okay, so that looks beautiful now, but I'm just going to inspect this on an angle. So I just want to make sure that we've got no bridges on any of these solder joints, and also at the same time I want to make sure we've got nice uniform solder joints as well. And yep, it's awkward to get the right angle for the camera, but I can see it and I can see that it's all good. Alright, so I'm not going to worry about cleaning anything else up. To be honest, I'm probably going to put this in the ultrasonic cleaner, just because I don't know how much flux is going to be inside that port and stuff, and whether I'm going to be able to get it clean or not. But for the time being, what I can do is just pop it back inside the housing and pop the heatsink on. So I'm not going to worry about the thermal paste, it's not going to overheat just for the sake of testing. But I can pop the heatsink on, power this on, see if it displays, and if it does, then I can ultrasonic the board, and then I can put it back together. But I'll do that off camera. Okay, there we are. So let's just get this hooked up to power. A little bit awkward because I don't have another IEC cable. So it's a little bit tight in terms of the power cable. I'll pop it on its side just to make it easier for me. Really need to get another cable. Just going to grab my HDMI. What I'm going to do is I'm going to, even though this is a brand new cable, literally just plug this in. I'm going to soak it in IPA just to allow that to transfer to the HDMI port, and that will in turn, or should, clean it enough to be able to test the display. Let's have a look. Okay, she turns on. That's good. Yes, I know that's a little bit janky, but it's not going anywhere. It's leaning up against my microscope arm there. Let's just test the display. No, unfortunately not. So if I power this on, it's staying on for around about 5 seconds, and then it's shutting itself off. Yeah, shuts itself off after about 5 seconds. That's not good. Let's just unplug the HDMI and see if it still does that same thing. Could be a case where the HDMI encoder is just dead, or it could be fake. No. That's not good. That's not good at all, because, well, I mean, it could be a dead encoder, it could be a fake encoder, it could be a number of things, to be honest. Okay, it looks like we're going to have to carry on then, because we need to try and figure this out. So it's not because the hard drive's not plugged in. That wouldn't be the cause of this. Okay, so the question we've got to ask ourselves is, what was the original fault on this? Was it the HDMI encoder, or was it something else? I don't know. So I'm going to remove this HDMI encoder. Just added a little bit of solder to the middle there. And the customer did supply a couple of HDMI encoders. I think one additional chip, I think. So the thing that you got to think here is, these are not in original packaging, right? If there was, the chip would fit better inside this strip. And they look like they've possibly been used before, maybe, and just cleaned off. So I'll try this customer's HDMI encoder. If that don't work, I will try one of my own. I'll pull one from a donor board. I don't buy these from AliExpress. I buy them on donor boards. And obviously, if I sell them, I'll test them first. But I'll buy them from donor boards. I'll take them from donor boards, and that's how I get a guaranteed genuine chip. Assuming it hasn't been replaced, but I can normally tell whether it has or not. Good. So yeah, it could just very well be that the chip has had too much heat. I don't know how much heat has been put into that chip in the past. It could be that it's had too much heat and it's just dead, and that could be causing the issue. Potentially. Okay, the chip is dancing, so that means it should be in line. Okay, excess solder. Alright. That's clean enough in terms of the soldering. I won't worry for now about cleaning the flux off. Like I said, if I get this working, I'll probably ultrasonic the board anyway. Well, I will ultrasonic the board and obviously give it a full service, make sure it all gets put back together properly. Okay, let's give it another try. I'm not worried about the HDMI right now, just see if it's turned on and stays on. Okay. And it's definitely not overheating as well, right? Because the fan's not ramping up. Okay, we did get 6 pulses before it shut down. That's looking promising. Okay, it's staying turned on. So it is looking promising so far. It will go into safe mode if it does boot up. And it shut down when I plugged in the HDMI. I've got a feeling these chips are fake. Yeah, that's shutting down after 6 pulses. Again, with the as soon as I plugged in the HDMI chip, the HDMI cable, sorry. The moment I first plugged in that cable, it shut down. That's not good at all. So I've got myself a donor board just here. This is a PS4 Slim, but it's absolutely fine. It's the same chip. So the PS4 Slim, the PS4 1200 series and the PS4 Pro all use the same chips. So I'm going to remove this from here. So there's a donor chip for me. And just check this out. One thing that I've just realised is something I should have noticed before. These fake chips have got a completely different texture to the real ones. So the real ones are really, really smooth. I don't know if you can see that. Well, you can't because it's out of focus. I'm a terrible YouTuber. So the original ones are really, really smooth on the surface, right? Whereas these ones are not. They're rough. That should be coming across on camera. Like you can just see the colour difference and the fact that it's well, it's got different writing for a start. You know, the font's different, and also the surface of the chip. And this one's one that didn't have excess heat in it either because it was, well, apparently brand new. I've just taken it out of the packet, right? Okay, just solder that partially. Alright, I'm going to clean this up just so I can inspect it. Doesn't need to be perfect, I just want to be able to check the alignment. Absolutely spot on. Yep, dead on. Perfect. So I'm happy with that alignment. It's as close as you're going to get to perfect, I would say. Okay, let's try that again. And if it doesn't work this time, I'm going to have to get more information from the customer by calling them up in the morning. It's quite late right now. It's 1:16 AM, so I don't think the customer would appreciate a phone call at this time of night. Oh, they might, you never know. Okay, so we get a fan spin. Let's just see if it turns off. Yeah, it does have another fault on it, doesn't it? Oh, that sucks. I am going to just try it with the HDMI, with the hard drive in, but it's not going to be that. These should boot up into safe mode if you don't have the hard drive plugged in. So we definitely have an issue here that isn't, I just heard that hard drive turn off. We do have another issue here that isn't related to HDMI. Obviously this has had another fault or something else has been done to cause this issue since the original fault, right? So it could be that the original fault with this was that it was turning off and the customers just assumed that it's a HDMI fault. You know, a long pulsing blue light or, you know, any kind of pulsing blue light, 2-second blood. A lot of the time I do find that people get that mistaken with, you know, display issues. People will put them down as display issues and they'll associate it with a display issue because to them, it's not got a display. So technically they're not wrong, but technically they're not right either, unfortunately. But yeah, what I'm going to do, I'm going to call the customer in the morning and I'm going to see if they have any more information on this. If it is something which I don't feel like I'm going to be able to continue with, then obviously I'll just call this video quits, and we'll just just treat it as a no fix. Obviously I've got a little rule: if I hit record, the videos do go out there regardless of whether they're fixable or not, because every day is a learning day. I know that's a bit of a cliche, but it's true at the end of the day. And we can learn something from every single job, from every single experience. And I think the lesson to take away from this is not to try and jump in the deep end, right? Because, regardless of the issue on this console, regardless of whether this issue is fixable or not, the customer did still mess up at the end of the day, and they did still obviously, struggle to install it. And obviously practice makes perfect. I'm not going to slate the customer. It's their device. They can do what they want. But it's just, there is a possibility that whatever has been done to this could have made it worse, right? So yeah, I'll see what the customer says anyway. I'll see what the situation was, whether they was getting a display before or whether it was going to a white light or something like that. And yeah, I'll take it from there. I'll leave something down here on whether or not I'm going to be doing a second part to this, but for now it is a no fix, unfortunately. And yeah, I don't know what else I can say. I do have a very interesting repair coming up. I've got a PlayStation 4 Slim in, which I was getting a checkered display, which was very, very strange. Something I've never come across before. And then sometimes when it's cold, it's got a long pulsing blue light of death as well. So it could be a case where we need to rebuild the APU. It could be a case where it's completely unfixable. We never know, but that is coming up soon in the video as well. So with that being said, don't forget to subscribe, turn on the bell notifications, all of that good stuff. You can buy parts and supplies on my online store. All of the parts and supplies that I supply are guaranteed genuine. And, if you want a HDMI encoder, it's guaranteed to be genuine. For example, the PlayStation 5, you're not going to get anywhere where you get a guaranteed 100% genuine. Well, you will if they don't repulse. But, yeah, if you want someone who can supply these and they're guaranteed genuine, you can buy them from my online store. So with that being said, thank you very much for watching. I do really, really appreciate it. Let me know what you think down in the comments down below. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. And as always, I'll see you all in the next video. Take care, everyone. Most votes going. Bye for now.